How's it going, Smart Start Radio? We are back once again for a second installment of Coffee Chats, which again are a detour from our original Smart Start Radio situation where me and Sarah kind of just riff on a couple topics that we've thought are relevant and interesting and don't require a guest.
That's right.
So today we wanted to share our experiences on fam trips, which is essentially when you go to a city, a venue to kind of get a sense of like what's available for folks who want to do events and such. And one thing that we collectively as a group kind of realized, like there's a lot of like things that people do that are just kind of low key, just not really that cool. And we wanted to highlight those things so that if you haven't gone on a fam trip before and want to avoid looking a certain way and from other people who don't know you, you know, this might be a good way to do that. But also, sorry, go ahead.
I have a fun thought about fam trips.
Okay.
When I first heard the term fam trip, I was like, what? Because I grew up Gen Z, and maybe like it's a, you know, millennial thing even, but like fam, like, hey fam,
family?
like my family. Yeah. And like
Same.
friends and stuff. But like, so fam actually stands for familiarization, which I just thought that was really funny. I'm like, okay, I'm going on a trip with my fam, people who will become my fam. And you know what? After going on a lot of fam trips, I do feel like by the end, you do feel like family. You spend so much time with these people and you get so close to them. And it's like, you know what? They're fam. They are fam.
In a sense.
So when I first heard the term fam trip, my immediate thought was fam, like the slang, like fam, like my fam. I just think that's funny. Well, I just wanted to share that.
To be fair, this industry has a lot of words that like for example, what's the other word that I didn't think was what it was. Oh gosh, I'll think of it later. But there are so many that just you have to know to know. And fam trips definitely are one of those things.
Oh yeah.
To start, I guess, one thing that I experienced more recently that kind of drove me crazy, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on it, or anyone's thoughts on it, because I get people have busy lives. I understand this concept.
In terms of getting your thoughts, please don't hesitate to email us at editor@smartmeetings.com if you have thoughts. If you even just are like, hey, I loved this episode, really related to this thing that you talked about, blah, blah, blah. Email us at editor@smartmeetings. We are waiting there, staring at the inbox, waiting for your email. Please email us.
Sure, we would love to hear what you think. Staring at that inbox.
Yeah.
But so like I said, people live busy lives, things are happening, they're planning events, all that stuff. But if you're on a fam trip and people are like, you know, showing you around, doing these things, can you just put your phone on silent? Can you just like not like take a phone call in the middle of a presentation? Stuff like that. Like, I don't know. I personally don't like that. And it kind of looks like you don't want to be there. Little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense if it's like an important phone call, like if you have kids or something, like you need to like check that. But in general, yeah, taking a phone call in the middle of a presentation is like, please don't do that.
Leave the vicinity.
There's a reason that they have a no phones policy, like put your phone away in school or the teacher will take it. You know, we're big grown-ups in
way past that.
I know.
Unfortunately, as a society.
But like we are grown-ups in the real world now, so like school, I guess, instilled those values of like put your phone away. It's a sign of respect.
You would think, and I thought that too until recently. I was like, this is weird.
Yeah, I will say though,
you're adults.
Yes, I will say though, when I'm on a fam trip, often I take all of my notes on my phone. So like if sometimes I worry about that too. I'm like, okay, like I know, and I have said, hey, like I'm staring at my phone right now, but I'm listening to you and I'm actually staring at my phone and typing on my phone because I'm taking notes. It's the easiest for me because I always have it on me. And then like later when I need to write, then I have those notes right there. And like, that's just the way that I do things rather than using a notepad or anything like that. Because honestly, I will tell you, I cannot read my own handwriting.
Fair. Same.
Yeah.
Can't.
But
just chicken scratch. Be a great doctor.
Truly cannot read my own handwriting. So I always take notes on my phone. And I have literally said on fam trips, like, hey, like I'm staring at my phone right now because I'm taking notes. Just so you know, like I'm not, like I am listening to you. I'm just writing.
Well, I think there's a difference between like I'm using either like I'm checking my email because I need to or I need to take notes. Then I'm having an active conversation when you're giving some kind of presentation. Like that's where it's weird to me.
That's
it's like,
the difference.
You need to go into the hallway or something.
Right. Well, that's
like,
the beauty of phones, is like having that access, you know, to have those conversations like whenever you are able. Like, we don't have to write letters and deliver them by ravens anymore, you know. But I mean, like, reference? if you do need to have a conversation, but you're on a fam trip, somebody's giving you an active presentation, that can't be replicated, that can't be repeated.
Right.
The phone conversation that you need to have can be repeated later.
Yeah.
You know, you can call somebody back.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing. I think just like in general life, not even specifically like on fam trips or relating to the meetings industry at all, like people are saying, you know, it shouldn't, just because like we have our phones on us all the time now, that's the status quo, the way the world is. That doesn't mean that you should be expected to be perfectly responsive at all times, immediately responsive at all times. We have lives, we have boundaries. You don't have to respond to a text message right away or a phone call right away. That's the beauty of phones, is that you can call that person back. Unless, of course, it's an emergency or it's something really, really important that you need to get on right then and there. Just step out in the hallway.
Yeah. Yeah. One other thing that I'm just going to go down a list of things that drive me. Well, one other thing that I personally have struggled with a lot in the past is when I go on trips and it's like a fancy trip. It's like I'm at a resort, or I feel weird that like I'm not treating it like a vacation. Like, I don't want to treat it like a vacation, because it's not. Like, I'm being paid to tour this facility, to report back on what I find. I've been in some situations where people did treat it like a vacation, and that kind of bothers me. It's like, I get that maybe like you're different than me, like maybe you're not being like paid by the hour to like be here presently, but sometimes it's like, I don't know, it's a little iffy. It's a little in between space of
I think it definitely yes, I think it differs depending on a person's role, like whether they're an hourly worker or they're salaried or they're a contractor. Or, you know, and we're talking about fam trips from an editorial perspective, you know, like we've gone on fam media. Oh gosh, there's a cat. Sorry. Gonna move her.
That's never gonna change.
She's been interested in walking across my desk recently. Yeah. But anyway, sorry, I got distracted. But yeah, I mean, like even on meeting planner fam trips, you know, like whether you're hourly, salaried, or a contractor, you know, going on this fam. So in general, I feel like part of the work of a fam is to experience what's there.
Right.
But when you're experiencing what's there, you need to be paying attention. Like, you're not just like relaxing in the hot tub for like an hour.
I mean, you might have time to do that. Like,
and
you might.
Yeah. And so I will say that like I've been on fams where I've been like, part of my job is to experience this property. And so I will go in the hot tub. I'm not going to be clocked in for it. But I mean, like, maybe I'll draw from that later. I'll be like, it was a really nice hot tub. Or I like really enjoyed lounging by the pool and feeling the area. I mean, that's the thing where it gets kind of muddy or muddled, where it's like, what's completely the difference between being at work and not being at work while you're on a fam trip? Because technically you're at work the entire time. Even when you're sleeping in the hotel room, you're there for work. But I mean, like, you kind of just have to use your best judgment, and like you can draw from those experiences, because like I'm never clocked in when I'm sleeping in my bed. But I will write about the Heavenly West End bed and be like, it really was heavenly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you know, subjective, but it is important to like establish what exactly is work and vacation. So I'm curious, Eming, I mean, like when you talk about people treating it like a vacation, what does that behavior look like in your experience?
You invite your friend.
Oh gosh.
When you invite your friend, and then I judge you for it silently, but not silent. I mean, I won't get into it, but I had an experience where I was on a tour. I was actively on a tour, and someone's friend showed up, and I was like, what is happening? Like, it took me out of the experience, because like I'm there to like, you know, examine the property, and these people are just like, they're not there to work, they're there to, you know, enjoy. And it just confused me.
Interesting.
Because in my head, I'm like, I'm there, I'm not taking notes, I'm taking mental notes, I'm like being present as, you know, someone who's experiencing it as an attendee. And I understand, you know, again, people are different people, but I didn't like that. It made me feel weird, and it kind of tainted the experience for me a little bit, because like, I get they were allowed to bring a friend, I understand that, but I also didn't like it.
Right.
That's just me.
I think when it comes to that, like bring a friend, bring a spouse, bring plus one, you know, like that should be kept separate from like the actual, that's where work gets really defined. When you're on a tour, you're obviously at work, you know, and the friend, spouse, plus one, whatever shouldn't be included in that. You know, like that's where the blurred lines between like, am I working even though I'm like at this beautiful resort? Blah, 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 or wherever you may be, that's where it gets a little less blurry. If you're on a tour, if you're seeing a presentation, probably more clearly work than leisure.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple I've had a few times where people like brought like either a friend or a spouse, and I've always wondered what other folks thought in the room. I'm like, is this okay with everyone that this is happening? Like, maybe they're fine with it. Maybe it's totally cool.
Right.
But to me, it feels like you don't respect the group in a way, in a little bit of a way, not entirely, just a little bit. Like, I think that's kind of strange, but that's just me. I'm just unique and weird in that perspective, maybe. And that's fine.
I think it like once again depends on the situation and the scenario. Like if you have like if you're attending some kind of reception or something, like definitely bring your spouse, bring your friend, you know, like that's there for everyone. Like if you're doing an event or whatever. Like when it comes to work travel in particular, like or in broad, I guess. But yeah, I mean, like it's a matter of just like operating with respect for the people who are hosting you. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I haven't been on a fam where people have brought spouses or friends, but I have been to events.
You're so lucky.
I have been to like events where like I've been on a fam and then I'm also attending an event at the same time. They like integrate some fam stuff within that, and like there are plenty of people there with their spouses, and they're just like at this like welcome reception. They're like, "Oh, this is my spouse." They're not in the meetings industry,
right? Yeah. Well, so there was one thing I was on where one person brought their spouse, but I never saw the spouse. Another one, I did see their spouse, but like the entire trip. So it's like interesting choices were made between these two different people. Definitely. Like someone actually was like, "I'm not going to do this because they probably thought it was inappropriate." Good on you. And the other ones were just like, they're experiencing it with me. So
sure. No. I mean, like, as long as that spouse is respectful that like their partner is working, you know, and like, sure, you can bring a person along to the tours, but that person has to be aware that like that's a serious work situation, and like they're just kind of following along and observing. But yeah, I do think that it also is interesting in that like it's telling about the way that this industry has evolved, like bringing your kids along with you to an event or a resort, you know, like it's a thing now.
Yeah.
And
it is.
Like, so I've been to some events. These are Marriott's Meet with Momentum events. Marriott Convention Resort Network has their very exclusive, really amazing Meet with Momentum events, and a lot of people bring their families, and they have activities set up throughout the day where like, you know, there'll be like a keynote and a panel and some activities for the actual meeting planners there, and the destination hotel representatives there who are all coming from Marriott CRN properties. And then their families will have other things to do throughout the day. And that's kind of the perfect way to set it up. I think it's an amazing example because it works so seamlessly for people who want to do that. And it is a benefit of working in this industry. Like you think about like benefits that people get from their jobs, you know, like maybe if you work at a big tech company, you get a ton of shares in their stock, right? That's great. This is one of the benefits of this industry, is that you get to go on these amazing trips. And for people who travel so much for work, it's probably really nice to be able to spend a little extra time with your family and offer them something really nice by being able to bring them along. The key point there being, I think, just everyone operates with respect for the work that this individual, you, the individual, are doing, and the work that the people who are hosting you are doing.
Yeah. On that kind of point, or kind of in that similar-ish vein, another thing that I'm thinking about is kind of like being on time. Fam trips are
big deal.
I don't know about you, Sarah, but in my experience, when we get our itinerary, it's usually planned out to the minute. For the most part. Some of them are a little bit more, you know. Wiggle roomy.
Every time I see an itinerary with like a couple hours of free time, I'm like, my first thought is like, oh my gosh, amazing. My second thought is like, I'm only here for 3 days. Like, pack it up. But then I've also,
gotten a lot
every
better
time Every time I get like the post like fam trip feedback surveys, I'm always like, I really appreciate how much free time you gave us because I took a nap.
Yeah, some of them don't really have that. It's interesting. Okay, so this is kind of twofold. For the person attending the fam, it's good to be on time, because if you're in a big group and we're all waiting on you, this cuts into whatever it is we're doing. That's just plain and simple. Like,
it affects everybody in the group.
Yeah. And I've had moments where our host people who, were very good at like being present and kind and accepting,
good,
sometimes got really annoyed, and you could tell because people weren't respecting their time that they had, created around this particular event. But at the same time, like you said, like it's important for the hosts, whoever's hosting you or having you or inviting you to said event or tour or fam trip, is to think about, the well-being of the people who are on your trip, because if they're exhausted by day 2, how are you going to get them from point A to point B on time? That's just not realistic in my mind. Like, you need to work those in to the schedule way in advance, because people are, especially if they're traveling from, like, say, the East Coast to the West Coast, or vice versa. Like, that is going
time changes are rough.
Yup. So that's, when for people planning fam trips, be mindful of that, because not everyone is, coming from the same area.
Yeah.
They're coming from different parts, and if they're still on West Coast time, and you have a thing scheduled at 9 o'clock in the morning East Coast time.
That's 6 a.m. for West Coast people.
Yeah, like, we're still asleep.
Yeah.
Or at least getting up to go to work at that point.
I'm still asleep.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a thing for anyone, really, not just for the attendees or the planners or whatever, but just be mindful of the clock.
Yeah, and it's it's a signal of respect too. I mean, like, it's free for you, but it's not free. People have invested a lot of money into making this happen and inviting you out there. So, like, it is, like, if it was you paying for it, would you be late?
Yeah. That's another thing. Like,
right.
You're treated to a lot of things.
One thing that I learned once on a fam trip, and I don't remember who told me this or where, but it was another writer on a fam who said that punctuality is so super important to her, and we were kind of talking about it, and she said that she always sets everything, like, when she gets the fam trip schedule, she puts it into her phone, into her personal, like, into her schedule, and she puts everything 10 minutes early, so that she then arrives everywhere 10 minutes early, and she doesn't mind waiting, but to her it's really important that she is punctual. And I think that that's such a great tip. Honestly, like, just set your schedule, the events that you're going to be attending, the tours you're going to be going on, everything on the fam trip schedule 10 minutes ahead, so that okay, I have 10 minutes to get down there, if anything, or you arrive 10 minutes early, which is even better. And while you're there, take some time to just, while you're waiting, do some deep breathing or, like, observe.
Yeah, I always, I have a really...
Find some peace among a very busy schedule.
No, definitely. I have a really weird habit, and this is in general, not even fam trips, but I usually fam trips, like, if I'm traveling specifically and the schedule's, like, early, I'm usually up, like, an hour beforehand, because my body needs to acclimatize to what we're doing. So I try very hard to make sure that I'm, like, awake enough time ahead where I have enough time to, like, get dressed, get downstairs, but also look like a person beforehand, so I'm not holding up the group, because I know that's annoying, because either we have to drive somewhere, we have to meet someone, we have to eat somewhere, like, there's always a thing you have to do,
right?
And if you're in the hotel room still putzing around, you're cutting into someone else's experience.
Let's
see what else we got. Well, our content director, JT Long, gave us one story, and this might go back to another part of this don't do this list. She said that someone showed up to a press conference in a bikini.
That's
don't know. I have no context other than that. Other than if you're at work, if you're working, dress like you're at work. I don't know where this was. I don't know why there was a bikini involved. Maybe they were
a beach resort.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But maybe not the ideal choice.
Oh, man. I mean, wow. That is quite an interesting story. Yeah, I mean, dressing professionally is a big part of it. It's like how people perceive you, and you know, like once like sometimes like oftentimes you are representing your company, or if you're a freelancer or your contract, you are representing yourself. And so be somebody that people want to do business with, because ultimately that's what it comes down to. And that's not to say that fam trips are not super fun and so awesome, but it is business.
I mean, they're like, if it's really hot, I understand. Like, you want to wear like a t-shirt and maybe like some khakis. I think it's understandable. But I think there's like a level of like decorum that you have to think about to some degree of what I would not wear to a work event such as a fam trip. And I think, unfortunately, that's probably the most extreme version that we could probably offer you.
That's pretty extreme. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like when it comes to schedules and stuff like that, one of the things that I think is really important is like not skipping things or like just going off on your own necessarily, unless you have like made accommodations.
That happens a lot.
Unless like you have a contact on the ground there. So like if you need to, let them know. Be like, hey, like I really, really need to rest. And I don't think that I have it in me to do this after lunch activity. Like I need to go back to my hotel room and just like decompress a little bit. That's fine.
Yeah.
Just communicate. Let them know. Yeah. Like once again, it's a sign of respect. Yeah.
It's fine to over communicate, especially if you're not sure.
Yeah.
Just make sure people, give them ample time so that they know if you're not going to go. And if it's like, for example, if it's a dinner, let them know so they don't have to like order an extra plate for you. Because I'm sure that costs them as well.
That does.
And they're already spending probably a good pound on, I don't know why I said pound, but yeah, that's kind of, just like being thoughtful of things like that, I think are just kind of like, people should know, but maybe don't always.
And I think like we can kind of consider that as a do as well, as like communicate, be upfront with your communication, because it will like honestly make you look like a better business deal as a person, a better person to work with. Because if you're upfront with your communication and you're taking care of yourself, you know, people are going to respect you for it at the end of the day, you know, and if they don't, my earbud just fell out of my ear. Sorry.
But also, Sarah, I want to ask you a question, because this is like, so not just fam trips, but like if you're hosted at like an event, like like a conference, and we've sort of discussed this at random points in time, but let's say you have the schedule of sessions that are there at the convention, and you've been going for like 2 hours straight. How do you feel about not attending every session that is like offered, even if it might be interesting? Like, if every session is interesting to you, but you're running on literally fumes, what do?
You absolutely should not attend every session. I mean, pick and choose. Like, if every session is interesting, that's awesome. Most events these days record their sessions. You can watch it later. Watch it, like download it and watch it on the plane home, you know, or watch it when you're on a long car drive to or from the airport, you know. But like, choose the ones that are the most interesting to you, that work with your schedule and that work with your body clock. Because ultimately, like, if you don't take care of yourself, all of these sessions that are interesting to you and you try to go to every single one, you're going to be burnt out. And I know for me personally, I'm not going to be listening. I'm going to be sitting in there feeling exhausted, and I am going to zone out. And then I'm not getting as much out of the session as I could.
Right.
So I choose the ones that are the most interesting, that work with my schedule. And the other ones, I can look at those later, because I need to preserve my energy for the sessions that I really, really, really want to be in person for the networking, for the receptions where I'm going to connect with people and meet people who are going to be important business relationships. But like, you have got to take care of yourself first. Otherwise, you're not going to do a good job at anything else. Hands down.
Right. I have a question, because I'm curious, because we've also talked about this quite a few times, especially when we're both on the road. But how do you deal with when, you're on the road for, let's say it's 4 days, let's say you're with a group of people you don't really know that well. How do you deal with feeling like you're alone or lonely? Because that's something that I think we both experienced in our own different ways.
It is.
And it's easy to feel alone even with with people, because it's a normal situation.
It's interesting.
Not, like, friends with these people per se.
It's interesting.
But you don't
like
hang out with them either.
When we work these jobs where we travel so much, we are traveling all the time. Like, say like a 3 to 5 day trip once a month. Already, it is hard to make plans with friends and like have a social life outside of work. You know, like your friends maybe don't live super close, or like everybody is busy whether they travel for work or not.
Right.
And so having this work travel mixed in is definitely an extra thing that like makes scheduling things, finding time to be with friends or family even harder. Even though it's only a few days out of the month, schedules are limited, right? And so I will be honest, I have felt super lonely on some fam trips. I have, you know, done the whole day, like been energized, networked and everything. And then I've gone back to my hotel room and like watched some Netflix and been like, I miss my boyfriend.
It's like the weird come down.
I want to see my cat. Yeah.
You're just like,
it's strange. It's like this back and forth. And like, for some reason, riding on planes has always made me feel emotional, like seeing the world from that angle, or just being like, I'm going somewhere that is not home. Like I'm out in the world. Something about that has always made me feel really emotional. And you know what? I kind of lean into that emotion. Like I play some music like that amplifies those emotions because I think it's important to feel them. But at the end of the day, I think traveling all the time can be really lonely. And like, once again, you have to prioritize yourself and your well-being. And if you need space from the fam trip, like you need to just like take a night, take a bath, phone a friend. That's let's circle back to phones. That's the amazing thing. Call a friend. Be like, call your mom.
Phones.
Call your mom. This is your reminder to call your mom. On the other end of that, because I have more thoughts. I will say that, like, as I said in the beginning of this episode, you're spending so much time with people when you're on a fam trip. Like, you're together all day long for like a couple of days in a row. You make friends. You truly do make friends. And those friendships are a little interesting because it's like you don't see each other all the time. You may never see them again even. But I've been lucky enough to go on fam trips where like I've seen people that I had met on previous fam trips. And that's always really special and really cool to be like, hey, like it's so nice to see you again. You catch up.
Right.
And like, you know, you follow each other on social media, like on Instagram and on LinkedIn, and you stay up to date with one another, and like that's really special. So like you're not alone.
Yeah, and I think it's like, for at least for us, when we go on film trips, like we're often with people who are, you know, are coming from other magazines that are technically competitors.
Right.
There was one in particular that was kind of funny. So I was at a convention and I went to go get myself a coffee, and I can't do lactose. So when I ordered my coffee, I was like, is this lactose? And they messed up my order. And so I was like, okay, it's fine. Maybe a new one. And so I had 2 coffees and I was like, what am I going to do with one that I can't drink? And then I'm like, so I texted the other reporter and I was like, do you want a coffee? And she immediately was like, oh. And that's how we became friends.
See, that's really nice.
I got her a free coffee. I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
So
that's really nice.
Yeah, it was like, I was like, how do I, because like the vibe was always like, you know, we're competitors. Like I can't really like, I feel like, you know, there's like initial like weirdness to it.
Yeah.
And then once you kind of break down, like I'm still a person, and like I'm not going to treat you like a stranger because we happen to work in different companies. Like that's not real.
Exactly. Just like take care of each other. We're all people. We're all experiencing a new place. We're all away from home. Support one another, you know, like, yes, maybe your companies are competitors, but you're also people trying to like experience a new space, and like sharing experiences, we all know, brings people together. So of course people are going to develop relationships and bonds. I will say, like, on a positive note, for a major do for fam trips is take care of each other. Because once I was on a fam trip in Mexico, in Cabo San Lucas, and I was a little unprepared when I like left in a rush because I forgot my bathing suit. Stunk. That was terrible. So I ended up buying like $120 bathing suit from the resort shop because it's kind of hard to get around. So, you know, that's an expense that I wish I didn't make, but I'm glad I made it because I did have a bathing suit.
Wait, that was dollars?
Yeah, in dollars. But anyway, that's kind of an aside. So also a do, be prepared. Pack ahead of time. Traveling is hard. But
sorry, go ahead.
To finish my thought, in terms of taking care of each other, it was just me and one other rider on this fam trip. And I had been getting gel manicures for a while prior to this fam trip. And I wasn't wearing nail polish on this fam trip. My nails were bare. But because I had been getting so many gel manicures, my nails were weak and brittle. Okay, so at one point in like the second day of this 5-day fam trip or something like that, I broke my nail down to like the nail bed where it was like bleeding and like raw skin underneath, and it was super painful, and I needed a band-aid and I didn't have band-aids. And I like mentioned that to the other person with me, and I was like, I'm gonna go to the front desk and get a band-aid, and for some reason had trouble getting one. I don't know, they just like, it's not on them, it's not their fault. They just needed to like secure, because they didn't have band-aids up at the front desk, you know, whatever.
Interesting.
So then we have a break, and then the next session comes up, the next time for us to meet comes up. We meet in the lobby. I see her there, I say hello, and she pulls a band-aid out of her bag. She's like, I always bring some with me. You know, like, here's a couple for you. And I'm like, that was just such an incredibly kind, such an incredibly easy thing to do. Taking care of each other is so crucial. And like, that made me feel really, really grateful, seen, cared for from a person who was technically supposed to be a competitor. But it's like, we're all human beings. Sometimes we break nails and we need a band-aid. Like, help each other out, man. Like, come on.
Yeah.
That was just like such a glowing example of just human care.
Yeah.
We need a lot more of that.
Yeah, we definitely don't do that enough, unfortunately. Should, but I think I feel like we're all so used to like being in for ourselves most of the time. It takes something like that to remind you, like, oh yeah, there are other people, not just myself, in a certain area who might need something from me. Yeah, that they don't have, and that's that's a good thing.
It was special, and I think that I'm always gonna remember that.
One thing that we've talked about also, we've talked a lot of these things actually, is, and we sort of talked about this on a future podcast that we're gonna come out in a couple months, about when you're on fam trips, one thing that there's a lot of is drinks. Whether it's like a cocktail hour or a wine tasting, or they just want to like treat you to something, and you just have like 5 hours, or spend a 5 hours, you're being plied with a lot of different drinks, and and you want to be like excited about it because they're doing it for you, but you're also feeling yourself slowly like just disassociate from your body because you've been drinking so much.
It is important not to overindulge. I've been on a fam trip where they put on the schedule, you know, like at our dinners, like there's a 2-drink limit that will be covered. After that, any additional drinks you will cover yourself, which I think is a really good way, because like, once again, alcohol is expensive. And if you order like 5 drinks in a night at a dinner, that's a lot of money. The
one thing about the trips that we go on is that the drinks are usually really, really good, because they're like cocktails and they're specialty, and they're designed like, I've had some beautiful drinks on fam trips. I'm just like, too. How can I get this at home? It's so pretty. But then you have to remember, you're like, I'm still at work. I'm still I still need to be present enough to remember all this in the morning. Technically. So it's like, it's, you know, enjoying without overindulging to the point where you don't remember why you're there in the first place.
I think like that's another thing that, you know, like we've talked about before. I've talked about in interviews. I think we'll discuss it in this podcast episode that we have coming up, where we talk about alcohol at events and non-alcoholic options in general. It's a sign of hospitality. It's kind of the status quo that it's a sign of hospitality to offer somebody a drink, like a welcome drink. I mean, the thing about alcohol is like, it's been pretty much ingrained in our culture that it's a way to loosen up, and it's like you drink alcohol in an environment where you're connecting with other people, right? And by offering a free drink or a beautiful drink, it is a sign of hospitality and care. It's a gift, right? I do think that, as we will talk about in this upcoming episode, it's also really important to offer alternative options. You might have, you know, and now I'm speaking to the people who are planning fam trips, you know, like you might have a group of 8 people, and like 1 out of those 8 actually abstains from alcohol for whatever reason, you know, maybe somebody is pregnant, like they should have good options. They should have good options.
Yeah.
It's once again hospitality to offer them a wonderful alcohol-free alternative.
Yeah, there was one instance recently where someone asked for tea, which is fine, like tea, and they're like, "Oh, we have a box. You can just go through." And I'm like, I don't know, something about that felt very like, there's a, like, if you're going to be a relatively high-class establishment who wants to host events and people and groups, every aspect of your F&B, this is me just being F&B fanatic-y, but every aspect of your program should have like a twist to it. You're just like, this is tea is from blah 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 blah, and it's, you know, it's
like that person then probably doesn't feel very cared for.
No,
like they don't feel a sense of hospitality from that. It's like, you know, like, why not make them a beautiful cup of tea?
Yeah,
you know, it's
so
have a
easy. Menu.
Yeah,
like, here's the
or
box,
like a couple, or like list off the options. Like we have chamomile, green, you know, like whatever.
Unfortunately, they didn't know all of
beautiful floral, whatever. But like, I mean, that's about just like that person probably didn't feel very seen or cared for, and that's going to affect their perspective on wherever they dined.
Yep.
And that's really important.
Yeah,
hospitality.
So many layers to it. You kind of like, once you talk about it, you're like, actually, there's a lot of things that I didn't think about that are kind of essential to like an actual, like, because there's the experience of your attendees and experience of the people who you want to host your event here. There's so many different sides to it. That it's a little overwhelming, but it's still interesting in my mind.
It is. I'd say like one other thing, just like when it comes to the conclusion of the fam trip, and you know, like, you have some things you loved, you had some things you didn't like so much, you had some things you really didn't like. I think that there are always going to be issues. Don't complain publicly. If you have an issue, like, don't complain, like, don't broadcast to the whole group, like, I had this issue and this, and grr, I'm so angry about this and that. You know,
does it happen
like,
to you?
No, not necessarily, but I do think like it's kind of a sign of respect in general. I have been on a fam trip where I was like sort of unhappy with the process, and me and another person on that trip found it a little odd, and we started discussing it, but we discussed it privately between the two of us. We were not broadcasting it to the other people on the trip.
Right.
And later in like the post fam survey, which you should always respond to. Don't you want people to fill out your post-event surveys? You know, do the same for fams. But like later in the post-event survey, I, you know, wrote out like, hey, like, I sort of experienced like this and that, and I didn't really like this or that. And like in the future, this is kind of what I would like. The post-fam surveys?
Yeah.
Almost always.
Interesting.
Yeah. Post-fam surveys are kind of the place. Or, you know, like if you're on site and you have an issue that needs to get resolved, talk to your on-site contact.
Right.
They're there for a reason. You know, and they probably are like, they're probably going to be like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Yeah, I'm happy to make that work for you. Communicate.
I've actually done one before.
Really?
I can't think
I feel
of
like
any.
I get surveys for most of them.
I don't know. I mean, I can't think of any at the moment. I mean, I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe it's different depending on the agency.
Maybe.
Probably.
Yeah.
Maybe I got like one in the beginning. Maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've gotten that many of those.
Definitely.
I think that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they're always, and you know, like if you don't get a survey and you have feedback, you can email your contact and be like, hey, like and also I do always try to note the positive things as well. You know, like,
of course,
I really appreciate how you gave us so many breaks in the schedule. I really needed that midday break every day, and that was really great for me to decompress. Or because Marriott has and their PR agency has a profile for me, they know to put chips and guacamole in my hotel rooms.
Wow, you get spoiled, don't you? I don't remember. I've never been treated like that before.
They had me fill out a profile once, and like they asked about favorite snacks and favorite drinks, and I was like, chips and guac. I love chips and guac.
Okay, I have a question for you. So one question I get asked a lot, almost by every place I go, is what was my favorite fam trip? So how do
I get asked that a lot too.
How do you decide how to answer that? Like, because I go off by an experience, like the most impactful experience that I've had, like emotionally.
Yeah.
And it's always like the one where it was the ghost tour. But
yeah. You told me about that.
I'm just curious how you like how
I mean, I'm honest. Like, you know, you can't ask that and expect me to say, oh, this fam trip. because
well, you're still on the fam trip, so you can't really answer that one. But yeah,
but I've been on so many amazing fam trips. It really is hard to choose, but I have been asked that before, and you know, like up until now, like all of them have been really great. But the one that really, really stands out is my Vancouver fam trip. I went there a little over a year ago. And no, under a year ago. Sorry, a little under a year ago. It was just like such an amazing trip. And one of the things that makes me choose Vancouver is that this one particular activity on the schedule, I went on a seaplane, and it was the coolest experience. And like, I just remember feeling like so much awe and wonder. And, you know, so me choosing like that to be my favorite fam trip is really, really based on me and my preferences and interests. It's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah, of course.
There have been some really, really amazingly planned fam trips and some that have been like, you know, good. And they're all at the end of the day just like such a privilege to experience. But yeah, I think when someone asks you what your favorite fam trip is, I perceive that question as like they're taking a genuine interest in your travel experiences. So yeah, I mean, like, we're all travelers. Let's share those experiences with one another and like live vicariously.
Even if it's for work, you can still live vicariously and in an appropriate way.
Yeah.
On your fam trips.
Yeah.
So just keep these in mind for future fam trips as you
definitely
go through your career.
I mean,
there's going to be quite a few of them.
For you though, like, do you have any particular favorite fam trips?
Calgary was one of my favorite ones because the food was really good. Memphis because of the ghost tour.
Yeah.
Even though it was spooky and it freaked me out.
Yeah.
I've never experienced that before in my life. So that's mainly why. I mean, I think the important part of fam trips is that even though you're there to like look at venues, you need to think about what people want to do when they're there, because people aren't always going to be in a meeting.
Yes. And it is also really, really important and relevant to be fully present when you're experiencing these things, you know, because like, yeah, I think I was on travel time, clocked in, maybe, but I don't know. I mean, so for the seaplane ride, like, as I said, just like immense wonder and awe. Like, I have never experienced that, like taking off in the water. It was so bumpy. It was insane. We were so close to the mountains. I swear to God, this plane was full of full-grown adults, and everybody had their face glued to the window like a child. It was amazing. Like, I just, like, that made my heart sing. Like, that is so like, that sense of wonder is so rare and so special. And, like, that made such an impact on me.
Right.
And so, like, to fully experience that moment. And then I wrote about it in the article that I wrote about that fam trip. And I was like, this was the coolest thing ever. You should definitely do it if you get a chance.
Right.
Like, actively experiencing these things. And you know, of course I spoke about, you know, how it felt to be there. This is why you should do it if you get a chance, because this is what it did for me.
Yeah, exactly.
To experience these things yourself and be present. Have fun. Yeah. Have fun. Be there.
We're very lucky that our jobs let us do these things. I get a lot of comments of like, you must like you get to go where and where and where, and I'm like, yep, I'm a travel writer.
Yeah.
Look at me like,
yeah.
But yeah, it's especially for people who plan events, like, it's people who work in this industry are very, very lucky, because that many people get to go to different cities and experience, you know, these unique moments that are pretty much only there. And their whole job is to find these moments to share with the people that want to be at your event.
Yeah.
So it's really important to like think about the little aspects and details that make your event and your fam trip like great, because that's really what it is. It's the ingredients of making something that's perfect or perfect enough. Real and memorable, meaningful. Anything, last nuggets of?
No, I really just wanted to talk about the Band-Aid experience, because I think that that's like a major do. No, truly though, like, all jokes aside, like, it was just the greatest sign of care, and like, I think that like we should all treat each other like that as much as possible.
No, that was very sweet. That's very sweet of them to give you a Band-Aid. Your poor fingers.
Oh God, it was awful.
I know.
It was so painful.
I used to do that too, and then I stopped because I'm pretty sure it was
I don't do gel
making my
anymore.
They're great, but
they're great.
like,
I love how long they last, but I can't.
Yeah.
My nails were so brittle.
Yeah.
And so now I just use regular nail polish and my nails are chipped right now.
Yeah.
We do what we can.
Yes, we do what we can. But in the meantime, if you're listening to this particular episode, there's probably also a story on our website if you want like little quick nuggets of information about how to, you know, go on a fam trip, host a fam trip, all those things. We're more than happy to give you insights into that. If you have questions on our experiences, feel free to drop us a note at editor@smartmeetings.com.
Yeah.
We're here. We're available.
We are.
Have too much to say, really.
And we really want to hear from you.
But yeah, it's been cool. It's been great. And
it's been great.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening.
On Smart Start Radio Coffee Chats.
You belong here.